Hey guys, Felipe here. So as you know, I'm here to keep you up to date with current market news, teachings, and everything tech. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about a new era business strategy, which is called Blitzscaling, which companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, PayPal, and many others have used to really explode their business and become billion-dollar businesses by utilizing the Blitzscaling business strategy, right? So with that being said, I'm going to jump right into it and let's talk about what Blitzscaling is. So Blitzscaling, it's basically how startups explode, right? And kind of dominate their particular market by using this strategy. So Blitzscaling, what the heck is Blitzscaling? So it's an all-out program of growth that is called Blitzscaling. Blitzscaling drives lightning growth by prioritizing speed over efficiency, even in an environment of uncertainty. So it's a risky strategy, but it has been a new era strategy that has allowed companies like Airbnb become Airbnb, right? It's a set of strategies and tactics. Blitzscaling, it also requires an environment that is willing to finance intelligent risk with both financial capital and human capital, which are both essential ingredients for blitzscaling. Think of them as fuel and oxygen. You need both to prepare a rocket skyward, right? The infrastructure of your organization is actually the structure of your rocket, which you are building, rebuilding on the fly as you rise. Your job as the leader and entrepreneur is to make sure that you have sufficient fuel to proper your growth while making the necessary mechanical adjustments to adjust your rocket ship to keep it flying apart as it accelerates. So in this current environment, it's tough for businesses that are not established to utilize this strategy because it requires, again, a lot of financial capital and human capital, right? Which are expensive. Most of the time, businesses are financing these things or they're taking loans in order to finance these things. And loans are a little expensive right now because of interest rates. Here's what all we need to know, basically, to realize about the new era of business, which is blitzscaling, right? Speed and uncertainty are the new stability. The future can and should be better than the past. So with that goal in mind, blitzscaling helps you get to the future quicker, and that is worth tolerating the discomfort felt when blitzscaling to get to the future as quickly as you can, because you're going to be taking on a lot of more risk, right? This is more for businesses that are trying to scale, take majority of the market share, but it has a lot of risk, right? Because you're going to be taking in a lot of you're going to be needing a lot of additional capital, right, to be doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, growth alone is not blitzscaling. Blitzscaling prioritizes speed over efficiency in the face of uncertainty. And then here we have a couple of different business strategies and whether they land on uncertainty or certainty, right, or efficiency and speed. So in uncertainty and in efficiency, we have classic startup growth. In uncertainty and speed, we got blitzscaling, which is the strategy I'm talking about. And in certainty, efficiency, we have classic scale-up growth. In certainty, speed, we have fast scaling. What is classic startup growth? Well, basically prioritize efficiency in the face of uncertainty. Classic scale-up growth. Focus on growth efficiency once the company has achieved certainty about the environment, such as market, testing the market, if their product is actually, the market accepts the product. Fast scaling means that you're willing to sacrifice efficiency for the sake of increasing your growth rate. And then blitzscaling means you are willing to sacrifice efficiency for speed, but without waiting to achieve certainty on whether the sacrifice would pay off. You usually need more money to blitzscale than to fast scale because you have to keep enough capital and reserve to recover from the mistakes that you are likely to make along the way, right? Once you convince the market for capital, whether through issuing stock or through bringing in investors or, top talent to invest in your scale up, you have the fuel required to start blitzscaling, right? To propel that rocket ship up to the sky, right? A company might employ different types of scaling at different points in its life cycle, which are some of the examples I was just sharing. For example, Google, the sequence that Google and Facebook have gone through begins with classic startup growth while establishing product and market fit, seeing if the market actually absorbs and accepts their products, then shifts into blitzscaling to achieve critical mass and or market dominance ahead of the competition, then relaxes down to fast scaling as the business matures, and finally downshifts to classic scale up growth when a company is an established leader, right, an incumbent, where basically they have majority of the market share, they're known in their industry to be the top business in their specific industry, right? Such as Google, it's the top business in search engines for online search engines, and Facebook, it's one of the top social media businesses around. Today, every individual can connect to any other individual immediately with the power of the internet, right? That increased velocity is what makes blitzscaling possible and so powerful. Blitzscaling era, you have to make tough calls, take on additional risk and discomfort of blitzscaling your company, or accept that you might be at a greater risk of losing to the competition if they blitzscale before you do. Because let's face it, it's an extremely highly competitive market. So any advantage that can be taken should be taken. Disruption produces losers as well as winners, but as a whole, it is a vital source of growth and opportunity that you can't afford to ignore. The term blitzscaling basically comes from 20th century's usage of blitz, a way of basically describing a sudden all-out effort. If you are growing at a rate that is much faster than your competitors, that it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you are basically blitzscaling. Just when you are finishing blitzscaling one business line, and if you're focused on a specific industry or a specific product, you need to blitzscale the next business line to maintain your company's upward trajectory, right? Keep that rocket ship continuously going upward, right? And as blitzscaling continues to spread, established companies with mature business lines should consider turning to intrapreneurs to blitzscale new business lines. What the heck is an intrapreneur? Basically, is a manager within a company who promotes innovative product development and marketing. Think of Steve Jobs, right? When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, his primary focus was to promote innovation for specific product lines, right? Think of Mark Zuckerberg, same thing, Jeff Bezos, etc. These great leaders are, you can think of them as examples of what an entrepreneur is. Three basics of blitzscaling. Number one, blitzscaling is both an offensive and defensive strategy. Two, blitzscaling drives on positive feedback loops. So actually getting feedback from the market for your particular business line or product. The company that grows to scale first reaps significant competitive advantages. So there are massive competitive advantages to first into market for a specific product or technology. Think of Airbnb. They really took that advantage. Despite its incredible advantages and potential payoff, blitzscaling also comes with massive risk. You're in need of a lot of capital. Think of a rocket ship again. It needs a lot of fuel, right, to propel itself up to the atmosphere, right? That's what blitzscaling is, right? It takes a lot of resources. Three key techniques of blitzscaling. Number one is business model innovation. By business, we mean how the company makes money by acquiring and servicing customers. The problem is that by definition, business model innovation involves trying something that is new and unproven, which is harder to get capital for, right? Because there is no historical data proving that specific business or products is going to be successful. 2, strategy innovation. Blitzscaling businesses tend to play in a winner takes most or winner takes all markets. So again, that's where it becomes a offensive strategy. Implementing a financial strategy that supports this aggressive spending is a crucial part of blitzscaling. And then 3, management innovation for new product lines, products, and services, and so forth. 4 growth factors important for an environment to blitzscale, right? Market size, with abbreviated TAM, total available market. Is there a market for your product? Is there a market for your service? Because if there's not, you're just in for a bad ride. The business is not going to be successful. Number 2, which I would say is the most important, distribution, leveraging existing networks, virality, like think about like, social media when a video goes viral. Viral distribution occurs when the user of a product brings in more users, right? And those users bring additional users, much like an infectious virus, right? Spreads from host to host. It's either organic or incentivized by some kind of reward. Organic, new users invite friends to use your service. For example, think of PayPal or a lot of these fintech companies where they offer an incentive. Hey, invite a friend, you get $10. Invite another friend, you get $20. For example, PayPal has used this in the past, and they were growing at a rate of 7 to 10% per day doing that. And then eventually, as they grew and they grew and they grew, they began to bring down those incentives until they effectively removed them, right? So variety almost always requires a product that's either free or freemium. So basically free until a certain point, after which users have to pay to upgrade. Number 3, and this is again extremely important, high gross margins. Any business with high gross margins is going to be a great business, right? Gross margins, which represents sales minus the cost of goods sold, are probably the best measure of long-term unit economics. The higher the gross margin, the more valuable each dollar of sales is to the company, because it means that for each dollar of sales, the company has more cash available to fund and expand. This means that it is not necessarily any easier to sell a lower margin product than it is a higher margin product. All revenue is not created equal. However, investors love companies where all things being equal. Higher revenue creates higher profit margins. Selling more copies of the same piece of software with 0 incremental cost is a business that scales nicely. Think of Microsoft, right? What does Microsoft do? They produce software. There is not that capital intensive once it's created. Unlike Apple, they produce hardware. It takes a whole lot more capital to produce new hardware than it is to produce software, right? So there's difference in scalability there. Appealing to investors make it easier to raise capital. And then 4, network effect. Definition of network effect: basically a product or service is subject to a positive network effect when increased usage by any user increases the value of the product or service of the user, right? Think of YouTube, right? The more people on YouTube creating content, the more people that come in to consume that content. So this has a very, very positive network effect. 5 categories of network effects: 1, direct network effect; 2, indirect network effects; 3, two-sided network effects. Think of YouTube again. 4, local network effects; 5, compatibility and network and standards. This also explains why growth factors of distribution is as or more important than the company's success as the product itself. Without distribution, there is no company. There is no business. No business exists without distribution. Designing to maximize growth. 2 growth limiters. A key component of business model innovation is designing around these growth limiters. 1, lack of product or market fit. Product market fit means being in a good market. Is there an actual market for your business or service? Is it actually solving a problem? Is it actually needed? Most non-obvious opportunities arise from a change in the market that the incumbent, which is the leader in that industries, aren't willing or able to adapt to. In many cases, this can be a disruptive technology innovation, but it can also be a change in law or financial regulations. The rise of new customers or any other major shift. For example, Charles Schwab was able to create his monster financial empire by leveraging the deregulation of brokerage commissions to launch a discount brokerage. The only way to truly prove market product fit is to get a product into the hands of users and get that feedback loop going, right? Getting user feedback. Number two, operational scalability. When you blitzscale when a market is big or growing fast, or preferably both. Otherwise, there's no point, right? If the market stops growing or reaches an upper limit, you stop blitzscaling. So otherwise, you're wasting unnecessary resources. Blitzscaling, step one, do the things that don't scale. Step two, reaching the next stage, blitzscaling. Step three, figure out to do one set of things that scale while at the same time finding a way to do a set of things that don't scale. Step four, reaching the next stage of blitzscaling. Stage five, repeat over and over until you have reached complete market dominance. Your business is now the incumbent, the market leader, which this means is that most consumer internet startups, the most important fire to put out or to create is distribution, right? If you have no distribution, your company is dead. Distribution is everything. Sometimes there is no first scalar advantage to be won. For example, we suspect that markets for food delivery from existing restaurants, a pure commodity, right, is unlikely to offer any lasting competitive advantage. They have no moat. Anyone can recreate that at the heartbeat, right? They have no competitive advantage. That would justify, that a blitzscaling strategy would not make sense for that kind of business, if that makes any sense. Once you decide to blitzscaling, a key question you need to ask yourself is, how fast can we go? Can we go faster? Blitzscaling requires sacrificing short-term efficiency and thus financial results to achieve long-term value creation, which again, the greats like Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham, long-term is what matters, not the short-term. If we've had a different perspective about that in the way the government runs the finances, it would be very different. But that is kind of the results of short-term thinking. Finding a way to leverage people and businesses with prior blitzscaling experience. If you're not familiar with this stuff, always go out there and seek help from someone that has experience with this stuff. Leveraging the knowledge of venture capitalists, which are very vital for a lot of startups to really explode, right? Approaching venture capitalists is a quick way to get a sense of how knowledgeable professionals assess the value of your assets, treat the new initiatives as a company within a company. And with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with some great quotes here. So this is by Drew Houston, where basically blitz is his explanation of blitzscaling, right? It's like harpooning a whale. The good news is you harpooned a whale, and the bad news is you harpooned a whale, right? You accept the risk of making the wrong decisions and willing to pay the cost of significant operating inefficiencies in the exchange for the ability to move faster, to get that rocket ship going up faster. To mitigate the downside of the risk you take, you should try to focus them, line them up with a smaller number. You can more easily understand and monitor what drives your success or failure. Lastly, you also have to be prepared to execute with more than 100% effort to compensate for the bets that don't go your way, because it's risky, right? Great. So with that being said, if you guys like what I share with you, stay tuned for a sequence of more videos like this, all things from finance and tech and business strategies. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, listening to me, and your time. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Have a good one.